picture is super cool. Mommy said Daddy's not feeling well. He wants to see you, he's upstairs. I saw Daddy's eyes close and said to my teddy bears, why does Mommy cry? Why does Daddy close his eyes when they see me listening and talking to you? Mommy and Daddy said they'll always be there to hear me say I love you to my teddy bear. Mommy came home late today with Grandma at her side.
From beginning to end, Harold LeMay has been a name remembered around Tacoma as friend and loved one. Now we can share in his love and excitement with his legacy of cars. Harold LeMay was born in Yakima, Washington on September 4th, 1919, and grew up with a family he called aunt and uncle. In 1937, Harold graduated from Capalzin High School. In the early 1940s, Harold purchased his first garbage route, and in 1944 to 1946, Harold spent time in the Navy as a Seabee. He realized that the war would end, but there would always be garbage. Harold was always a hard worker who believed in rising early and working until dark. Under his direction, the business grew to serve more than 125,000 customers and employ over 450 people. Harold's holdings include many refuse companies and recycling businesses, spanning from Mount Rainier to the Pacific Ocean. 2 major landfills, Lucky Cells, Lucky Towing, and Harold LeMay Investments. One of Harold's most interesting properties is the former Marymount Military Academy, located in Spanaway, Washington. For nearly a decade, Marymount has been a major part of the LeMay family's annual car show and open house, held the last Saturday in August. To Harold, the event was an excuse to have a great time with thousands of friends and fellow enthusiasts. He loved the stories shared. Harold saw everything as having a potential use. He always had to be doing something and could never sit still. It was his passion that Harold LeMay collected a visual story of America's 20th century history.
Before the museum, the main thing that we did was get cars ready for the annual car show. And that was done just by volunteers. Now the museum has regular tours of the collection, and so the museum does do a lot of this and on a regular basis, where before it wasn't done on a regular basis. Now the cars are kept looking good year-round, and before it was primarily just for the August car show. This is a special car to me because I did help Harold bring this car into this room and put it in this display. It's been like this for a number of years, but the restoration shop did the restoration of this car. And I can remember when I drove it out here, I really felt like I didn't really want to drive it because it was so pretty and so nice. And I felt like it was too nice for me to be driving. But we started to put it on display down at the house in the Packard building, and what we were doing down there didn't work out, so I brought it out here. And in order to get it into this room, we did have to knock a part of the wall down in order to get it in here. And I think that's one reason why it still sits here, is because we didn't want to go to all the work of taking it out.
The LeMay Museum is doing really well. Our effort is to build what we're calling America's Car Museum. LeMay Museum is going to be located in Tacoma, Washington, not too far from where Harold and Nancy had their home in Parkland. It's about 10 miles from there. It's a fabulous site right on the conjunction of Highway 5, Interstate 5, which goes all the way from Canada to Mexico. We're looking at and starting to have relationships with colleges in the area. One of those that we have is with Clover Park Technical College and their automotive program. Another thing we do is try to reach out to the elderly community. Some of the elderly people really do enjoy looking at the automobiles, so we'll often bring a few cars over to a nursing home or a retirement center for someone's birthday party or a celebration or the 4th of July, you know, and just try to have a positive giving impact. Most museums are a straight history museum. The LeMay Museum is really about much more than that. It's about education, yes. It's also about entertainment. It's also about fun. We think of it as a gathering place for car enthusiasts.
This will be the 3rd year that we wanted to recognize an individual for their contributions, and all of you folks fit in that category, to the old car hobby. And this award is called the Harold E. LeMay Hobbyist Award. And as you know, I had the privilege of knowing him very well. I've had the privilege of working with him and for him for many years. His wife Nancy LeMay is over here on the left, and she is a big supporter of this hobby. And Harold never ever told me no on anything that we wanted to do. We want to recognize Chaz Martin from the Mild and Wild Car Show for all of his years, and it's a lot of years of being a member and a part of this hobby. So where are you, Chaz? I know we tricked him into coming here, but we want to present to Chaz Martin the Harold E. LeMay Hobbyist Award for 2003. I tell you, there's a real...
He was always around, you know, he'd pop up, or he'd call on the phone, "You busy? You doing this? You doing that? We need to do this." And you never knew what you were going to do. I mean, you could wear a suit into the office one day and jeans and grubbies the next, and you were always doing something different. The company still, as big as it's growing, which is amazing to me, still feels personal. You know, it still feels as though you can walk in and you can talk to the people that run the business, Nancy and Norm and Doug. You can still sit down and talk to them.
Dad had to look around because it's an old gas station out in the middle of nowhere, and there just might be some treasure out there that he wanted. And this car was sitting alongside the gas station. Of course, it wasn't in this condition. It was, you know, rust colored and that sort of thing. But it's a 1938 Chevrolet limousine, which you don't see very many. In fact, I've never seen another one. I couldn't tell you exactly how many they made or anything like that, but there's very few left around. And he saw that there, and he was very interested in it, and he looked up the guy that owned the station and ended up buying the car. So then he wasn't as mad that I took the wrong turn. So that's what I remember. Every time I see this car, I remember getting chewed out for going the wrong way, and he ended up with a car. So I think that made it better. You know, so that's the story I have on this particular car. We don't want to see the collection broken up like a lot of other collections have been broken up. Probably the most notable would be Harrah's. Everybody seems to know about that. And so we want to try to keep the bulk of the collection together. And so we're trying to form a museum and get it off the ground and functional, and so other people can enjoy the cars as we have all these years. So,
as far as setting out to collect cars, he really didn't do that. What really was the catalyst to his actually keeping them and really going forth, you know, full bore like every week, was when Harrah died. When Harrah died and his collection was split up so widely, he was so upset because it was a fabulous collection that can never be replaced. It will never be replaced. Not the quality, not the number, and even though it was not particularly privately owned by Bill Harrah, it was a corporation that owned it, it was destroyed, and that really it did upset him. And so at that point he kind of thought, you know, I'm going to keep my cars because it's so important to the history and the education of people to be able to see these cars, not just the fancy cars, but the ones that everyone drove, that were seen every day on the roads. If you'd ask him, if there's one car you really like to have in your collection, what would it be? It would be the Tucker. And so Doug and I went down a little over a year ago and bought him his Tucker. And the really cool thing about it is it's his favorite color, which is blue. You know, if Harold were alive today, he would be pushing the museum, definitely.
The Harold E. LeMay Museum. It was chartered to preserve and interpret the history and technology of the automobile and its influence upon American culture. In November of 2000, Harold LeMay passed away, but his collection will still live on in the Harold E. LeMay Museum, scheduled to be built in 2006.
Whatever you had to tie it down, chains, binders, those were a luxury. He'd find rope and string and twine and wire and a whole lot of faith. But he always brought things home safe, and that's why they called him lucky. So I'll miss him very much. Thank you.